At the end of the day, right, when we're 150 years old, thinking back on our lives, like what is that thing that we really wish we honed in on a little bit more? And most likely, I'm not a betting man, but I will put a few dollars that I wish I had more fun, right? I wish I
Yeah.
played more, whatever that thing is. So what's up, everybody? It's another episode of Hydrated Mind and Soul. My name is Mikey Schmitz, and the episode today is mental health through new eyes.
Yes. And so I'm Dr. Hackford. We have our guest, Saul Alvarez.
Really nice. Thank you. Perfectly said.
Yes. And so the reason the title of the show is that is because I want to bring you some mental health stuff, but through a new perspective, through fresh and new ways, and just actually a lot of generic and general things, but that can be very helpful. So we want to kind of dive into a little bit of your intern experience and then take us from there, because that's how we kind of see that new perspective in mental health. And so we're really glad you're here. And if you're local, he is at the Psychotherapy Center of Vero Beach, and that's where you can find him if you get interested and see. He seems wonderful. Oh yeah, don't stop him. No stop.
I'm friendly, but we gotta set some limits, right?
We already had a show on boundaries, so I already remember those. All right,
Let's release that one.
yeah, make sure you stick to the boundaries. So I had it real quick. You could just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I had that introduction, but the people haven't.
Yes. Well, guys, thank you so much for having me, first and foremost. My name is Saul Alvarez. So born and raised in New York, right? So that comes initially with its own kind of nationality, if you will, background. But we moved here about 4 years ago, and I really, it was one of those things. So sure, I had to pivot career-wise, but being a therapist and mental health was something just in my bones, right? And whether it was, as a kid, I'm over there migrating towards the parents and trying to understand them and their behaviors, and kind of extrapolate that to high school and young adulthood. I was the one that, let's just say, those leaned on for some, some wisdom and just a shoulder. Sometimes we just have to listen, right? And then in the pivoting, I decided, you know what? Let me actually use my powers for good.
Yeah.
And so I got on board with my first place in Port St. Lucie, Clear and Path Health. God bless Christina. Shout out to you. She's awesome. And that's really where I started to stumble, but in a good way. Of course, I stumble and learn about myself. And it's like, oh, it's not all about, it's not all about just, oh, and how does that make you feel? Like, no, you're dealing with a lot of different types of people.
I always say to people, if you think you're coming to, for me to say, how do you feel? And, and or them, no, I'm not the right, there's probably someone right for you, but I'm not the right one for you. I'm not the textbook, sit back and say, just tell me your feelings. And not that expressing our feelings are bad. That's not where I'm going with that. But it's just low key. Just, we got to get raw and dirty and get out what it is and work on it.
You're right as fuck.
Yeah, we got it there. And I also like to say that every therapist is not a fit for everyone. So I want to make sure that if I don't feel like I can help you, you go to someone who I feel can, because that's the goal.
Well done.
You have to feel comfortable with who we're dealing with. You really do. And if you don't feel comfortable with me, then I'm not going to be able to help you. And that's okay.
Right.
There's somebody that can.
I love that. And you know what? It just makes me think sometimes is I want to throw the cape on. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of who's in front of me, I got this. However, that's where, again, fresh eyes, right? Still learning that, no, there are either different professionals that might be, a better fit, or, maybe like I mentioned earlier, being malleable, kind of like
A chameleon.
check exactly, check all we know, the textbook and everything on the side, and just see the person in front of us.
Exactly.
That's key. So I dig it. I dig it.
Getting that is important, because I think that really matters, that, we learn through experience. So you go to school and you learn all this stuff in school, and then you get out and you're like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Like, this isn't what the book said. And so, you've got to just learn from doing it, which is part of what internship is. Like, that's the point. But it's still 20 years later, I'm like, wait a minute, what's this one about? Well, we have to just, go with the flow and decide what's best and see if you can deal with that. But my first question for you answered, because I was going to ask you kind of what got you into this profession and how, so you answered that already within that. you gave me some little tidbits of just who you are in general and things you like. And my favorite part of that entire thing was at the end where you said, and I could be changing the verbiage just a little, but it said something to the extent of, lastly, but most importantly, I'm a man of faith in God. That was my most important. I was like, okay, he's the one. So, but I did my kind of other question for you, just as a for others out there, is so far what you've dealt with now in actually seeking and seeing patients is and no, obviously we're not giving details of a patient or anything like that, but what surprised you the most getting into the field and and then saying like uh, and how has your perspective changed? Like what surprised you from like school to the real deal? And how did that change any perspective you have?
Oh, I love it. I love it. All right. As I reflect here, initially, I suppose whether it's through TV, films, kind of like the media stuff, I thought it would be more of the traditional sit on the couch, a little bit of that Freudian, like, hey, let's get introspective.
There's
Why,
somebody.
you know what I'm saying? Like, why are you mad at Ma? Like what's going on there? And then it evolved again to just realizing, don't necessarily hammer the things that I believe that this person needs or whatnot. Just listen. We try to add on, and this is more of a general statement as opposed to like mental health professionals, but we, try to add on so much, like we have to do. Sometimes it's actually doing less, right? And to connect it to prayer and to God too. We pray for things, right? Oh, please help me with this or do that for me, do this, God, please. Sometimes I like to pray to actually lose things, lose stress, lose that anxiety, lose that perception of I have to do more.
Oh yeah.
So I realize do less in such a beautiful way. Listen to the person, connect. They want to know that, hey, I do have a human being in front of me, not some computer, not mom or dad or some type of authority that has some type of bias. No, I'm just here like, hey, wait a second, please take the mask off. That's so important to the process. So that is definitely a type of nuance that I learned. But another huge thing is authenticity.
Okay, good.
Authenticity. Oh my goodness. I tried to even like wear the certain things that I think a doctor or whomever would, that kind of thing. And I just realized like, wait a second,
Nobody's thinking I'm a doctor in air quotes, what I'm doing out there, like in club jeans or whatever. That's how you should be. That is probably more important than anything else, is being authentic to whoever you are. Everybody, whoever you are, just be you. And I always say less is best. So what you just said, less is really more. Don't want the extra details, the extra things. Like it just adds to mess. And I say that a lot too, is that less is more, because the more you do, the mess just gathers. Like keep throwing the laundry and the piles get bigger. Let's just focus on this little piece. And then once we get that, we'll go to the next little piece. Let's not just you're going to overwhelm yourself and everything trying to, not that you can't pour your heart out and all these feelings. That's more of like tackle each little issue at one time kind of thing. So
love it. We are totally on the same page here. Right? Like compounding on itself. Like, no, come on. Dare I even say in the therapy room, let's have some fun. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
we can actually put a little twist to this. And again, not to negate,
Yeah.
I guess you guys mentioned grief, like, last time, like, of course that's going to be there, all these negative core beliefs. But hey, at the end of the day, right, when we're 150 years old, thinking back on our lives, like, what is that thing that we really wish we honed in on a little bit more? And most likely, I'm not a betting man, but I will put a few dollars that I wish I had more fun, right? I wish I played more, whatever that thing is. So that's and it connects to, goodness.
Yeah.
I can write a thematic essay. I'll send it PDF.
I got you. We the one there.
Oh, me?
It's funny when you get passionate. I really hear the New York. Except sweet. It
Comes out, right? That shit, how you doing? It's like a DC show.
I love
That's how I like that. That's hilarious. Here's another question for you, and you can bring anything in different at any time, but how do you maintain boundaries with patients? Because we know sometimes we just said that in the beginning, like, but how do you maintain boundaries with some patients that may try to exceed boundaries, but you still remain supportive in trying to maintain that?
amazing. Maintaining boundaries. Okay, so I will actually echo that authenticity, right? Making sure that it's not, again, not just a doctor's visit where it has to be incredibly cordial, that I can do a dual thing of, hey, look, I am a human being. I'm here for you. I'm not here to go tell mom and dad or anything like that.
Mm.
But also, I just let's respect one another, right? I think that that even in itself, laying that foundation of, hey, look, as long as you don't flip a table, you're not, kind of cursing me out or anything like that. Sure, let's respect one another. But hey, feel free to be yourself. Again, I have to go back to that. Be yourself. Like, do this. Sure, if you want to get a little personal and it's vulnerable, you take the wheel here, right? You're the one. I'm just the GPS system, you know what I mean? I could suggest, hey, I suggest making a right here, but you can go straight. You can do anything you'd like. So as long as there's some type of, like, and even look at the energy, right? Like, hey, look, I'm not here, wagging a
No.
finger or so to speak, but that's what I've learned thus far. I will say there was a time that there was, and I'm gonna pick and choose here. There was a time where I did feel uncomfortable in that, am I placing this person's, significant other? I had to navigate that. And when I say that, it's more about, they were realizing, oh, you're the one here for me. You're the one, like everything you'd want to hear in like a Hallmark movie. So how do I navigate that? I more turn it towards, hey, look at what you're able to do. You're able to have a healthy relationship with a professional, and we're able to discuss these things without necessarily having to act on certain things, right?
Yes, there you go.
So as long as I kind of say the hard thing out loud
Yeah.
with some finesse, if you will, I think because that was one of the harder situations for me. So to me, I told myself if I can handle that one, then I'm really being very, very, plain about it. But if I can handle that, then I think I got this, for shit. So boundaries are just innate sometimes when you just allow the space to, be what it is, facilitate it.
You
to
do
be
have to
honest.
set your boundaries, but I think by being honest and open and authentic with them, you kind of already create somewhat of a boundary. But then sometimes you open stuff up because they think, oh, he's cool, like
Yeah.
he's so then they want to overstep a boundary professionally. It's so, but it's easy to kind of veer them off that track when you're telling them the right things. And like you said, all we can do is suggest things to people. We can give them what the knowledge we have is, but we can't force them to do anything. So we all have our own free will. So I could say, hey, maybe you should try this. Let's see if but at the end of the day, they can go home and throw everything I said out the window. That's up to them.
True.
Just like it's up to us to choose how we conduct ourselves every day and what we do. And I try to reiterate to people that number one, therapists need therapy too. Sometimes we're just human. I always say we're just human. Like we're human, just like our pastor. He's just a man.
Yeah.
You can't hold him to this high standard. Like, oh my gosh, the pastor had flip flops on. And like we all are doing the best we can. And as long as every day we try to do the best we can, then we're okay, or we're moving forward. We're not staying stagnant or going backwards. And if we do, let's reroute the GPS, like you said.
What we learned.
Like let's go here. But but as far as exact kind of for people who aren't in the realm of it, if you describe, there's no one approach, but what's your overall approach to when somebody comes in and they sit down, and it could be anything. So that's why I say overall, because everybody has a different issue that they're coming and seeking therapy for, which puts me to the note that therapy has a bad stigma. So that's why I also say, like, hey, we're not perfect. We hear me sometimes too, or even if it's just somebody to listen to something that we need to say. But your overall approach, and when I mean that, like, there's all kinds of modalities, like, EMDR, or, all these different things that you could do, which CBT and all these things that other people in our field know what we're saying, but other people are like, I have no idea what that is right now.
Absolutely.
They're right.
Like so that's why I'm asking is like, what's your overall kind of go to, not with everybody, obviously, or maybe a certain one that you specialize more than the others in, or something like that, maybe DBT, whatever it is. And you can explain it to what as far as what that means. They might.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. So certainly cognitive behavioral therapy,
That's the
CBT, is going to be like, oh my god, it's going to be your go-to and everything. It's the Pepsi's, the Coca-Cola brand. Like, you know what I mean? It's just a, steady Eddie. But really, I don't want to devalue it by saying that, because it really is in or outside of the therapeutic space. Like, we're trying to do that every single day, like little pep talks of like, no, wait a second, no, that person didn't cut me off because they really hated me. Like, no, they were probably in a rush somewhere. They're probably, maybe their cat is sick. Like, we have to do these things. It's a cognitive restructuring, kind of challenge this negative notion that for whatever reason, we were conditioned to believe, right? So that is a huge thing. Our thoughts affect our thoughts affect our actions, which affect the way we think. Exactly. It's just a huge cycle there. So that is certainly my go-to, but a specific thing is I am a little bit more solution focused, right? Motivational interviewing, right? I do have a graceful, or in my mind, I try to gracefully challenge the individual in front of me, right? There, of course, rapport building is key, right? I'm not going to just, hey, how you doing? By the way, so be better, right? Like, no. You know what I mean? Like, no, it's more about,
I think that would work.
oh, not quite, right? Or at least, those who accept that, then there's probably a deeper issue.
Yeah.
But just overall, if there's that connection and that ability to just like, hey, look at where we are. Just tell me a little bit about yourself. Again, get the initial info. Then eventually, maybe it's session 1, maybe it's session 10 or 15 that you get to a point where like, okay, so this is what really I've been observing, right? Your resistance, you're blocked here. What if I were to say, if you can just focus on some micro goals, right? And I'll use a little bit more of an example of somebody, a young adult, 18, 19 years old, struggling, still kind of at home, but wants this independence. I have no control, etc. Maybe that kind of thing. Okay, but did you make your bed today? Well, no. Why not? What happened?
One thing at a time.
You know what I mean? Start there. Start realizing that, wait a second, I can control my space. Okay, after that, when that gets boring, right? When that gets, okay, I made my bed. So, all right, so then what is that next level for you? I'm able to shake hands with a stranger and potentially network out there. Okay, oh, that's a little bit too much. No problem. Okay, can we at least make a phone call
In the middle.
You know what I mean? Can we make a phone call? So a little bit more of the solution focused while not spoon feeding, right? And that's tough. And I would even love to continue to learn about that, because there are times where I'm like, all right, he or she is just not getting it. And of course, it's all internal, right? This level of patience that we need to have, but okay, they're not really getting it. So I do have to kind of, compromise a little bit and say, hey, you know what? I will kind of spell it out, but you're the one doing the work here. But if we can do that.
Comes from, I think with you, that might come from you have a lot of passion. So when you don't feel like, oh, she's not getting it, and you're like, gosh, when I'm doing this, it's so like good. I want to do or be better, and I really want to help her. And so like overdoing it on your end, and to like, because you really truly at heart seem like you're very passionate about helping them. So you're putting that in, internalizing it into yourself, because I've done the same thing. But it's because I like really care, but we can't force that, that, like you said, it could be 15 sessions. When we're on 3 or 4, I'm like, this is great. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And so, but, because everybody has their timeline. But the micro goals, like you said, is a huge one, because I can have this amazing dream and goal. And I tell everybody, you can do it, depending on what work you put into it. So, yeah, if I can be this whatever, professional baseball player. Well, are you playing baseball now? Are you practicing? Are you, okay, because you can achieve any goal you have as long as it's realistic in the micro goals. Because if you can't be this professional ball player if you don't practice baseball.
Correct.
You don't ever pick up a glove. You don't go and have somebody bat with you, whatever that may be. And a lot of people look at the long-term goal, and they're so focused on that long-term goal, like say, even not baseball, like purchasing a home. Like I'm so stuck on, I really want to purchase a home. I want to purchase a home. Okay, well, let's focus on what comes before the home. Like your job, or do you have a schedule that can take a second job? Have you looked into your credit and your credit scores, and like, but sometimes they get fixated on the big goal that all those little micro goal, they're not even thinking about them. So it's you got to like hone back into them, like, hey, you can do that, but first, here's what you got to do to get there, because they lose track of the get there part.
Love it.
Just
And
1 millimeter changes every day to get better at whatever it is or whatever goal it is. You have to chip away at it. It's like cutting down a tree. There's 2 different ways to do it. You can take a chainsaw straight to it, or you could slowly just work your way through it, chip it down till it falls.
100%. These metaphors are on point. What I'll interject with too is I always say, hey, look, we want to work on the roof of the house, right? We want to work on maybe even the sidings of the house, but we got to lay a foundation first if we're building something, right? So to your point, these long-term goals, I want to climb the mountain. I want to be at the peak. I just want to feel alive, whatever that might be. I'm like, absolutely, I love that. We can do it. What is that? What emotions there? We'll go to it. And then I say, okay, first I want you to just survey the mountain. You know what I mean? I want you to just look around, just say, okay, what is it going to take? All right, now feel around. Just say, okay, now this is where I feel most comfortable. I think this lane of it, whatever would work with that person and metaphor, but it's to the same point here. It's like we have to give ourselves some grace to realize that not everything is going to be instantaneous. What's the cliche here? It's like, oh, it's not about the destination, it's the journey. I mean, my goodness, it's a cliche for a reason. You know what I mean?
No,
It is about the journey.
It's about the journey, because number one, I try to tell people, myself, everyone around me, I'm saying people in general, friends, family, the journey, like none of us are promised tomorrow. Okay, none of us. So today is part of the journey. As long as I'm doing good today, I'm not worried. Like, yes, of course, we want to have focus and goals and all those things. But the main point of every day is what can we do today? And it may be a part of getting to that goal, but that the journey is the longest portion. Okay. Because when we get to that goal, like maybe we get there. So we say, oh, yes, bought the house. But guess what? Then comes another goal we want to get to, a bigger one, a better one, And
You
so
get on one hill, then you're at the next mountain. You get, okay, the goal is I want to make $100,000 a year. Then it's I want to make $250 a year. Then it's I want to make $500 a year. Then it's I want to make $1 million. And that's why the journey, because every time you win and you complete that goal, there's another one that comes up. It's just the way that the human mind kind of works.
Let's flip the script, though. Yeah, or go ahead. You
say, because it's amazing just hearing that, and it's like I hear, where's the contentment in what we've achieved, right?
Yeah.
And you say, maybe it's a human. I mean, hey, who am I to say that? It could most likely be just a human condition, but I even think like even culturally too. It's just we live in a culture that it's like it is like get bigger, get better, like whatever that might be. But hold on, be content. I got the house. I got the house. Wow.
thank you, God.
You know what I mean?
Like I have
Gratitude, express that, be in it, sit in it, learn from it, and then create another goal, right? So I just had that felt real. That felt very real, and it resonated with me.
I was doing that, and we like wanted to interject at the same time. I'm a talker. We're talking a New York talker and talker, both talker. So, but I'm a good blisker too. Well, this is a show. We're supposed to be talking. So, but I was going to interject with that and flip the script and say it's the same for the trials and the hard times we go through, because we want this trial or whatever it is that is affecting us in a negative. It has a negative impact. I don't like the word negative, because we always want to focus on something positive, even within that negative situation. But we want so bad to get out of it. Same as like reaching a goal, but then all of a sudden we do good. We come out of that valley, and now we're on the mountain. And then guess what? Another trial
Seasons.
and that's the way those seasons of life work. That's part of being here. That's part of the deal. God didn't say that we wouldn't have trials. He's just here with us through them. So each one comes. So some people have never had something bad or horrible, or they haven't dealt with a mental illness issue, and it comes, and then they get over it and they think they're, whew, all right, that was good. I'm in the clear. But then couple months or years or whatever goes by, and something happens, and here we are again, and sometimes worse, sometimes better. We don't know, depending on what we've learned through it. But that's where that kind of comes in, is flipping. Like it's sometimes not always like the dream chaser. It's almost like not being able to get out of the trial, like wanting to. And I really like, why am I so depressed? And sticking ourselves there, where that's where the gratitude part comes in, and being thankful. With no matter what it is, doesn't matter how bad it is or how maybe we perceive it's not bad, but to somebody else it is bad. And so and that should be validated. Just because like, oh, your dog passed away, and I'm like, oh yeah, well, my mom passed away. I know what's the matter with your dog, but no, because it's affecting us equally. You're just as sad as your dog as I am my mom. So, and that's so we have to, validate each feeling, not compare. There's no comparison in a feeling or a mental health issue with somebody else.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
that brings me to,
Yeah.
have you ever had a client who has helped you grow in some way? You've learned something from them, and like, what would be that big one? Because there is a lot I think we learn from them. So like for you, like what's that a client, what's something a client has taught you about either growth or healing in some way?
Oh my God. I mean, I'm having such a reaction because one of my go-to things, and I mean it when I actually do my introductions, is and I want to learn from you as well. Like I almost have like this rule for myself. I must learn from this person. I don't care if this person's in first grade or, like I said, all the way to however age. So I do need a moment, I do need to reflect because there are lots of times. Okay, so I have learned a lot with checking my own biases or any types of judgments, right? Now that is a built-in thing that we learn as far as through the curriculum and academia, etc. Like, hey, look,
Yeah.
regardless, unconditional positive regard and whomever, and absolutely.
Yeah.
However, we bleed red, right? I think, right? Where that means we're human beings. So we have these kind of like, well, if this person is, and again, I'm generalizing, if this person is into this specific, I'll say genre of music, right? And I'm not going to immediately assume whatever this person, have that kind of permeate into the other types of lifestyles or what have you.
Stigma.
You understand? So I've realized that, wait a second, how can I really just put myself in their shoes, listen to the music, which, yeah, I have,
Yeah.
right? Or the movie or the show. Let me at least watch some clips, whatever it is. And I learned like, oh, wait a second, maybe this is the way he or she is getting their anger out or really feeling like, oh, I can be kind of like the romantic lover type, that breaking that stigma that everybody thinks I'm dull or not really affectionate. Like, no, in that when I'm playing my Bruno Mars or whomever,
Yeah.
I can kind of like get down. So again, really, really what it is, it's like I've learned through several clients of mine that it's okay to be different than this person. Like we don't immediately have to like, oh wait, I recognize that. I reckon like it's okay. Like, wow, I don't really know what that is.
What is that?
On that. You know what I'm saying?
You also get to know them on a more personal level when they're telling us about a show or song or a book or something that they like, that I'm like, oh, I never heard of that book before,
Right.
but I can learn about them in a more personal way, but maybe even use some of that to reach them through, whether I like it or not.
Yeah.
Because that's what makes the world go round, is we all like different things, to different movies, different songs, whatever. But colors, we have different favorite colors, like literally everything. So, but that doesn't mean that I can, you love blue, let's say, and I love purple, and I'm just using like Mike Yar blue and purple.
Yeah.
And so, but that's okay. Like I don't have to like blue to like him, I don't have to like his jersey, because we also had that didn't like his jersey. So I don't have to like his jersey to like him,
If he's Jersey like
but, see how much nicer he is. See,
and you can be that. You will get there, by the way. We'll talk about it after.
Amanda though, trying to beat me up.
you for my sessions. So
Hi, I love the air.
yeah, I have to come see you. It's pretty rough. No, I really probably do.
I have a side question.
Please,
So
ask
for
us.
the listeners, just because I've actually only been to therapy like a few times, probably should. But for the listeners, what are, if they've never been and they're worried about it because of the stigma or this, like I have a problem, I don't, whatever, I'm dealing with this. What are some of like the questions that you guys ask to get information out? I'm just curious.
So you want to answer first? You want me to just kind of go, because we probably both have good answers that are some, like, they could be very good answers and a little bit different.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure.
So go ahead. What do you?
So for those who really don't have a history of going to therapy and counseling and whatnot, so again, it does depend on the individual and where they're coming from. If I'm seeing somebody who is older than me, because already boom, like, oh, I don't really go to
What-
therapy.
no,
You
yeah.
know what I'm saying, right? They're like, where have you come from, right? So it's not me now trying to, put my glasses up and really seem like I'm astute to everything. No, you know what I'm saying? If anything, it's more of kind of grounding ourselves and even again at the most like fundamental things human beings are. So obviously after introductions with the individual, I'll say, now talk to me about like what are some of your hobbies? What are some of the things that just really you're passionate about? Some of the things that maybe you kind of don't necessarily have focus on or you wish you could bring back, right? Because we all have these things that we had to bury because of work, because of family or whatever that thing is. So I try to just immediately really relate to the person and just remind them that like, wait a second, even if you're into sewing and there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying people might think like, okay, it's a little bit more introspective and not as exciting. That or kind of like motocross. Oh my goodness, that's awesome. Where does that come from? What exactly excites you about that, or what does it release from you? And that to me, I've learned it kind of how you say, like, de-arms them, like it makes them put their guards down and just realize like, hey, by the way, a little friendly reminder here. I'm a human being too, that after this I have to kind of practice what I preach, and everything I suggest to you, I better be willing to do myself, right?
Yeah.
So as long as I kind of take myself off of the high horse and then I just come down and meet them where they are, I kind of see them like, okay, now they're not at the edge of the chair or the couch. They're souls. Souls. Let's go. She goes, what's you doing? Hey, where are you from? Actually, but really it is a process. It's
Yeah.
I know you ask specific questions, but really it's just more about like, oh my, being present and asking them the things that really, not, hey, why are you here? Not, I wouldn't do that necessarily initially, you know what I mean? Just really like, what makes you feel alive? Like, oh my goodness. And what's missing? Why aren't you feeling alive right now? Maybe some of those types of things, and everything starts flowing.
Love
It
it.
becomes a beautiful process.
I would say just because your perspective is good because you're not in this. So you always get to ask a question that a viewer would probably want to know. And that's why I like that. So for me, I don't think there's a set of questions you ask every patient their first visit. So if somebody's watching and maybe considering therapy and,
Yeah.
well, I don't know, I don't want to go talk to somebody, maybe I should talk to somebody, and they're in that kind of procrastination or indecisiveness and not sure, I would say just know that number one, you don't have to stick with one therapist. Like I said before, if you go to therapy and you don't feel a connection or comfortable, go to somebody else and go to somebody else. And I hate saying that because it's like, I'm not discrediting anybody, but I'm saying sometimes, I might not be able to relate to somebody that you do relate to and vice versa, only because of maybe personal experience or maybe, this is probably a real raw one, but maybe we're dealing with somebody regarding sexual assault or something like that. They feel more comfortable. They walk in, they're like, whoa, I thought I was seeing a female, or the male thought he was seeing a male. And there's different situations that are better for certain people. So number one, just consider that. Don't think because you went once and it didn't help you that you can't be helped.
Yeah.
And number two, even if you do feel comfortable with that therapist, don't think everything is always resolved in one session. Don't leave disappointed because you still have a certain feeling. Don't set any expectations, because if you go in without expectations, you'll be more able to relieve yourself of certain things that you may, like if you have set this expectation up here for yourself for therapy and you think, well, I don't want to answer this, but I do want to answer this, and I'm still going to leave and feel bad. And this is what, you do and people do sometimes, that just go in with an open mind. And I know we all kind of use ACE and these things that we we've learned that, but it's not always just that. And I say the same thing as him. Very much so agree with just sometimes the first session, I like to just get to know them. I don't really focus on what the problem is they're coming for. I want to focus more on who are you, and let me tell you who I am.
Yeah.
And, and that kind of thing is, and one question that I do always ask everyone, and I could be, or maybe that's not why I'm not for you, but the one question, because I really, really, really think there is something great about everyone, no matter who you are, no matter where you came from.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to recognize that. Okay, we're all made in God's perfect image. So you have to have something that's good about yourself, okay? And of course, we all have some bad or negative we go through, But I always ask somebody, can you tell me one thing, just one thing that you like or love about yourself? And that question sometimes is so sad when you get the answer that, well, I don't like anything about myself, or I don't love yourself. So then there's where that comes in where I'm like, but hold on. Let's take it a little step further. It doesn't have to be about your appearance. Like, because some people initially think, for me, it would be appearance, like, well, I don't like my hair today, but I love my Botox, I thought. Okay. And that's just being real, right? So, or opposite. But I tell them, like, no, it doesn't, or it doesn't have to be a personality trait. And it can be like, you know what? I absolutely hate who I am, but my hair looks great. Great. Okay. There's something. Let's start with that. Because if I have to like kind of pick or pry and go a separate route and say, hey, even if it's not even anything to do with yourself, and where you can relate it to yourself, like, well, I just, I like the car I bought. Well, that has nothing to do with the person, but if they like their car, great.
Yeah.
And let's start there and then start working on things we do love. Because at the end of the day, I really want people to find their self-worth. To me, that's the number one thing for people to do, is find your self-worth, because we're all worthy no matter what. And when we can get you to where you love yourself, or we all have things we're always going to have to nitpick about ourselves. But the general, I truly do love myself. I want to be here. I love myself. I love the people around me. Like, who you surround yourself is. We can get to that in a whole nother session. But, yeah,
For sure.
life and death right
Power
there.
of the tongue.
Let me tell you. And if I may, because you brought up so many great points, and it made me think, oh, wait a second, our scaling question. What a technique that we learn in our programs, But really what it is, especially if they're kind of like, oh, one word answers, I'm getting like a little bit. I'm like, okay, no problem. It's okay. All right. So now we're going to put a number to it. You say you like your stats, right? I totally get it. Because mental health, we can't grip mental health. You know what I mean? It's something we have to interpret and just have faith about.
For sure.
So when we can try to attach some numbers, I'll say, okay, on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being, that's it. I don't want to be here. I'm not only talking about in the room, maybe just here. I don't love myself. 10 being, nothing's perfect, but I'm darn near close to it. I love myself, my family, whatever that might be. Where are you on that? Okay, somebody says, I'm at a 6. Whoa. First and foremost, amazing. Amazing that you're at a 6 in your life. Describe it. Why are you at a 6, and what's the gap? What is the gap, right, to a 10? Can you even visualize what a 10 is? You know how many times I have people go like, all right, I'll describe a 1.
What is that for you?
Oh my goodness, I'll describe a 1 immediately. Oh, you know what? This, that. I've kind of like sniffed around it one time. Okay, now how about a 10?
That's the hard one.
Yes,
we see
a 10. Me at the best version of myself? What is that? So we're not giving ourselves, just flexing that, even going into fantasy, that's even possible.
Yeah.
That we can visualize that.
And we're all our own worst critic. Everybody knows that. That's not coming from a professional. This is the thrown around saying we hear all the time, right? But it's true, because I will see things in myself I don't like that everybody else compliments them. I'm like, what are they talking about? Since we're ours, we want to pick at ourselves first, and love everybody else. And like, the thing I don't like about myself, I see in you. I love it. I think it's great. So that's our own internalizing of whatever it may be. But as far as of just a couple more, one of my statistic actually this time had to do with themselves. And so my question is going to come from that statistic, but 60% of people, therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, anybody in this mental health realm that are seeing patients report burnout, and very quickly. only within 1/3 of the time they start practicing. So with that being said, it's more than half. What do you do for yourself to kind of help your own mental health while you're helping others?
That's good.
I would argue that's great.
I like this guy.
I seriously, I really do.
Signing up next year.
I love it. I love
I
it.
do.
And you guys are great as well.
As soon as he walked in the room, actually, but girl,
I appreciate you. And really why I'm saying that is because yes, 60, why so low? I understand why the burnout is there. I mean, really just to quickly preface it by saying like, look at what we're doing here.
we're taking on other.
We're absorbing. We're just a giant sponge and dressing up 100%.
When you're passionate, I'm gonna let you finish that question, but when you're passionate, when you're truly passionate about helping people, you want to kind of carry their burden. And so I can see the statistic being even higher, but that was the latest one I could find.
So I do that. I'm not a therapist.
Right? And you know what? That's key. I love that. Exactly. Exactly. So that was one of the, that's a nice connection there.
Yeah.
So what do I specifically do? So I take pride in being childlike. Love it. Not childish. Yeah. Childlike.
Difference, yeah.
Right? And I have to kind of flash back to what I said earlier. You know, when we're 150 years old and we're thinking back in our lives, like what was missing? Oh, I wish I played more. You know, and again, it sounds juvenile. It sounds like naive and kind of green and fleshy tail. But really, and I don't want to misquote, but to that point with the stats, there was an individual who interviewed those in the, you know, in assisted living and senior living, etc. And a lot of them had a general sense of like, you know, kind of wish I put work to the side more. And a lot of those feelings of, I wish I played. And that's what I do. I have to make sure first and foremost, I pray, I surrender everything that I can. Saying like, Lord, I don't know exactly how I'm going to tackle all of this, but thank God I have you. I know that you're going to be there with me along the side. Along my side, yes, sir.
Amen.
My wife, shout out to my wife. I absolutely love her. She is just such a compliment to me as I believe to her. And we play together, whether it is a game, board games, verbal games, actual video games. We'll even go outside. We'll work out together. I have to make sure that I just check out. We don't clock out on this job. You know, it just is who we are, right?
Yeah.
But make sure you do, or I try to make sure I do, right? I'm leaving the office. Okay, I went 1 for 3 with a home run and a couple of ground outs. That's good. That's good. I did well. All right, moving on. Right, I have dogs. You know, God hasn't blessed us with family yet, so meaning children. So when that happens, it'll happen.
Yeah.
But I have dogs right now. I have a wife. I have a house. I have these things. So I try to find my peace. I try to make sure that I still remain curious about the world, not cynical because of what I'm absorbing. I try to still like, okay, that was a lot. How can I now not
like
a shirt?
You know what I mean? Wow, that's all our mom used to
Nice,
say.
no? So you know what I'm saying though? So your mom used to kind of
She used
reinforce
to
those.
tell us, I think I talked about this on one of the other shows. She used to tell us it's totally random, but when we were mad at someone, instead of portraying that anger, she made us say, I like your shirt.
something that
you're doing this.
Yeah. Amazing. So like, it's just crazy how that connected right now.
Well done. But for sure, you know, that's the shorthand version of, hey, you know what? Be grateful, find peace. You know, that was hard, but you know what? There's other things of life that aren't hard. That there's actually a lot of pleasure out there, and you know, and again, I do have to stress that childlike, being curious, making fun, and hey, you know, so what's your favorite exactly? Get silly, you know, like that's my thing. That really is my thing. Let's sing, let's dance, let's just be open, let's be authentic, you know.
Love that.
That helps significantly. I cannot just start rooting out and going like, you know,
it's too that's for anybody.
you know, it's just no good for anyone.
Too.
You know,
So a close, like we'll get to the close of the show a little bit, but I did want to ask you. I already knew faith, like I was putting in like how important the faith is to you and how you measure success and how you incorporate that into your job specifically, your life. I mean, to me, it's every single thing.
Oh yeah.
But for you, what do you wish? Like on the end note, one is kind of a piece of advice, and it's like a two-sided question. So one is like, what do you wish more people knew about therapists in therapy in general? Which you kind of asked, which is funny because I have that written down. But
I didn't read it.
did you put it on my notes?
Nope.
Oh no, it's good. So but what do you wish
I was
more
genuinely
people
curious.
knew out there that, like, because I mental health has a huge a stigma, and still, even though we're kind of making really good progress compared to the past years, but and statistically we've grown thousands in numbers of the amount of people coming and being licensed mental health therapists and psychologists and all those things, which is great. But as far as therapy and therapists go, there's people out there that are scared of it. There's people that have no idea. They're like, they've been conditioned to think it's bad. They've been conditioned to like, oh, I don't need help. What do you mean I don't need help? I'm not crazy, and they immediately like think of that. I've had people say that to me, and I tease them. I'm like, well, I'm crazy too, so it's good. So I think like crazy. Let's go. You can be crazy. But say, the one thing that you think that you want people to know about therapists in general, therapy in general, like what would you say to people when they're like, well, what is therapy about? Like what's something good about therapists, like
Right.
that have never had to deal with us before?
Absolutely. My goodness. So I initially, what came to mind was, we want to go to the doctors all the time for ailments, these things, my elbow, my migraine, my this and that. Guys, even though we can't necessarily feel it, see it, maybe smell it, sense it, whatever it is, we need to figure this out, right? Our mental health, like whatever it is, that stress, like this reoccurring pattern in our lives, we have to make it that synonymous. I actually just used this in a session last week for somebody who was a little bit resistant and kind of had that stigma as well. And I was just like, hey, by the way, if you, God forbid, had broken your elbow, what are you gonna do? What's gonna happen? You're not going to necessarily just say, hey, you know what? It just is what it is. I have to suck it up. You're most likely going to have to be like, okay, I need to get the proper, medication, just mending. That is exactly what I'd like for you. I invited him, and specifically, he needed this to just think about it like that. There's no shame in this. There's no labels. We're not here to just say, okay, you're this, let's move on, let's administer this and that and whatnot. No, I think we want to be loved, and we want to love. Now on a more ethical professional level, we want to be heard, and we want to listen, we want to connect. And that's why, and I don't want to go on a tangent, but this AI and all of that stuff, and oh, it's taking over the world. Maybe I'm a little bit too optimistic about it, because I'm saying like, no, our jobs, our services is going to be so important, because at the end of the day, we're going to be like, wait, okay, you're a human being, a robot.
Can't feel.
We can breathe
Yeah.
in the same room,
Emotion.
and maybe that's all we need, right? So in a roundabout way, how I would say is that, remember that you have to also treat yourself like someone you're responsible for. And shout out to my favorite clinical psychologist, but that is so true there, that you have to realize that, just like if we have even our cars are, you have to take care of yourself, because you're important as well, right? Leading with that, realizing that, kind of taking away the labels allows for everyone to realize, hey, you know what? There's no shame. I can hop on and kind of connect with this person, and he's all right too. You know what I mean? Like, it ends up being like, okay, he's good. He's not gonna just, gotta write things down and move on. Like, no, there's a level of, hey, wait a second. No, this is boom, boom. Absolutely. I might not have the answer, but I heard you. I listened. And I think that that's so cool, whatever that might be. There's such a flow
Yeah.
in the room, and this is what I'm learning here, is that, like, yeah, these are great questions. What are the answers? And sometimes in the room is where you're going to produce that answer. You're going to say,
Yeah.
this is what you need.
It
This is
comes
exactly
then.
what you
Yeah,
need.
it comes to you then. The Lord helps you, and you're like, oh, I didn't deal with this one before, and it just flows out.
So good.
And
Right? Yes,
with
it
the
is.
physical health is a really good example about, like, if you broke a bone, you're gonna go to the doctor. But I try to tell people, I feel that your spiritual, emotional, and mental health are more important, because often when those are in check, our physical health is better. And I'm not saying like a cold or we broke a bone or things like that, but in general, because it causes the real endorphins and real things happen that go on that are physical. When our emotional or spiritual or mental health is off, that stress causes everything. Like it affects every kind of illness that you could have. And so those are the things, like they're just as important as physical health. That is just as important. So if you want to take care of your physical health, you have to also take care of the emotional and spiritual and mental health, because they all combine and then work as a whole. And but we'll close up the show and make sure we're probably already over our time. Our producer here is amazing. He really is. He was so amazing. He does a great job, but he also is patient with us. So
Absolutely.
I have one last thing just for the listeners, because it's something that I have a question about. Sorry, John. Love you, bro. When it comes to payment, right, for therapy. So if someone's really thinking about doing it, okay, is it out of pocket? Does certain insurance cover it? What insurance covers it? I mean, you guys don't have to go into detail. Are there programs for people if they can't afford it? So just for the viewers, I think that would be a really good piece of advice if they're looking into it.
it depends on where you go. So there's all different places. So there's places that don't take insurance, that are not in network. There's places that do accept insurance, and there's even insurance programs that will cover a certain number of sessions. So I'm speaking just specifically with insurance that we deal with. But every place, so 6 sessions, like with Florida Blue, are covered. Then once you hit the 6th session, that's where kind of the payment comes in, and they cover a portion, kind of like a copay when you go to the doctor. But there's definitely places that there's a lot that do not take insurance. However, I'm going to say this without being like not saying somebody's business. So I have a personal family member, one of my children, okay, let's just say that because I have more than one, but goes somewhere that we have amazing insurance, but chooses to go somewhere that does not accept the insurance and pays out of pocket, because it's very important to have the person that fits you and to really actually make progress. Now, that doesn't mean that somewhere that does take it doesn't. And I understand that. I mean, back in the day, I was a single mom looking for change in my car. So you go somewhere that does. There's the Treasure Coast Community for Health. There's the Mental Health Association. There's a lot of, and I don't know where people are watching from. So this is just local with us that I know of here. But at the end of the day, it is important. So get on Facebook, Google, wherever, and Google it and find therapists and call everyone and find one that you can go to if you don't have the funds, and find somewhere that will take indigent. And there's people that take payment plans. So maybe they don't take insurance, but they'll let you break the payments up. I know places that do that. And so, but regardless, or again, if you need help doing that because you're in a state where, wow, that sounds like a lot to me, that'll keep me out, email me wherever you are. I don't care where you are in the United States. Send me email. I will get online and I will try my best to find somewhere that can help you, that you can go to, and or a program that might help you pay something. I can't promise that I'll find it based on your location, but I will certainly try my best. So you can shoot me an email or private message to any of our media outlets. And I said this last show, but I'll probably say this every time. I will not even take payment for someone if you're in a serious spot and you need to talk to someone and you're like in the middle of a crisis or you don't know where to turn or what to do. Email me, message me privately. If you have a specific topic that hits home to you that maybe you're dealing with, and you want us to do a show on it, even if I don't know, I'll look around and I will find a guest that maybe that's their niche and bring them on to help you. And if you don't feel comfortable doing that publicly in a comment, private message me. We have a Facebook page, I have email, all that thing, they're all listed on our outlets. So do that. I truly mean that. I'm not saying that for the show. If you are one person that I can help in some way, I truly mean that. I will talk to you. I do. Money is not important to me. We can't take that where we go. We're not going to go whichever destination is, because I'm not gonna lie and say that you don't need Jesus to get to heaven, but you can't take it with you wherever you go. So I'm not worried about it. But at the end of the day, we're pretty much wrapped up because we're past time. But we really thank you for coming and psychotherapy center of your reach. If you want to talk this out.
Yes, please do reach out into your sentiment. Reach out to me personally if anybody's ever interested, curious, or just needs just a breath of fresh air. So, guys, it was truly a pleasure and an honor. Thank you for also inspiring me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, brother, for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Like, share, follow, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all the good stuff. I got the right camera, so we're good now. There we go. Y'all have a blessed day. We're out.